Sunderland, oh, the tears of sorrow you're going to experience tonight, dripping down your face, into your mouth, drowning you in sorrow. I can only imagine.
And the header is a free one, and in it goes! Ballard's header, prodded over the line by Luke O'Nien. Julius Chair to inspire Queen's Park Rangers, and Patterson stretches out to save. Here's Clark, finding room, finding the nets. Neil now escapes and finds Clark.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
That's fucking delightful. Fucking delightful. Fucking good combination playing, sliding balls into space. Good, excellent. Get them on the fucking roll.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Roker Report podcast in association with the Sunlun Community Soup Kitchen. It's Gav back after Sunderland's epic 3-0 away win at Queen's Park Rangers at Loftus Road. We're probably going to talk a lot about that and a little about the game at the weekend. Joining me for the first time in a little while is Martin. Hiya, mate.
Good morning, Gav.
Oh, very good morning. How good was that? We've outdone ourselves, I think. It was a proper epic away performance from Sunlun at Loftus Road, and we sit here 3 points better off. I think we're fifth in the table, thanks to a late Burnley equaliser, which notched us up another place. And it's all looking rosy in the garden, isn't it?
It is. It's pleasing, isn't it, to kind of see us go to QPR and sort of deal with the challenge that we had to deal with, because I think over the past 3 league games, we've had 3 very different types of challenges thrown at us. We've had sort of Millwall's physicality, we've had Reading's park the bus tactics, and we had a different type of game last night. And we've dealt with each of them really, really well. And as a young team, it's really pleasing to see just how, from a mental point of view as well as a footballing point of view, we've adapted to each one and taken on those conditions. So no, a very good away performance.
Oh, I mean, I love this team. I love talking about them. I love watching them. I just love everything about them. I love their approach to football. I love the manager's approach to football. I love just everything about this team. The goals, the way we move the ball, our fearless approach to just attacking anybody, regardless of who they are. I mean, the tactics yesterday were just outstanding. I felt, we got them absolutely bang on. The subs made a difference. This is as positive as I've felt. I mean, I'm really positive most of the time about Sunderland anyways, but this is as positive as I've been in a long, long, long time. And it's been a really good season so far. But I don't know what I felt like we'd achieve at QPR, but I didn't think it would be a 3-0 win. I didn't think it would be in this manner. I actually felt it would be really tight. I thought we'd maybe struggle to break them down, regardless of the fact they were in poor form going into it. I just thought it was going to be tough. And it was for periods, but we just killed them off. In all of the concerns, well, I say all of them, most of the concerns that fans have had leading sort of away from the transfer window and into this little period has been around lack of strikers. Where are the goals going to come from without Ross Stewart? And we haven't missed a beat. We just, we get on with it. I think Mowbray said after the game, didn't he, about the tactics? He said he felt that whilst their 2 centre-halves were very good players, that they weren't particularly mobile, and the way to approach them and maybe get the better of them was to play with 2 wide forwards, which is something that nobody would have seen coming. And it worked, because Jack Clark scored twice. Gelhardt played really, really well, particularly in the second half. First half, I wasn't so sold on him, but second half, brilliant. And yeah, just a brilliant team performance.
I think there's a few bits to unpick there, isn't there? So, in terms of expectation of result, obviously we do the article on the website before every game where we try to predict the scoreline, and I'm notoriously bad at doing that. But so for what it's worth, I did think we'd win relatively comfortably. I'd gone for a 2-0 win, which thanks to Jack Clark, I kind of lost out on some much needed points to lift me off the top of the table there, but I'm not going to complain too much. But I was really confident going into the game yesterday because I just thought we've got so much about us at the minute, and we've got. I look. You might be getting carried away a bit, which after a good 3-0 away win, I'm kind of allowed to a bit. But I reckon our forward players would give any team in this country trouble. That's how good I think we are going forward. I think Patrick Roberts, Ahmad, we had Jack Clark play really well last night, get a couple of goals. Gelhardt, you see a second half, but did so much work off the ball. Should have scored 1 or 2, but I thought his all-round performance showed a lot of promise. I think we'll see him getting better and better. And I think we've just got so much going forward that, it frightens teams to commit too many of their players forward because they know they're going to get caught in the break. If they give us an inch, we've got the players to actually punish them on the break, which we haven't had for quite a while. And this is a completely different Sunderland side to one I've ever seen since I started going to matches in 1986, right? And I've never seen a side play as good football as this, who've got such a threat. And look, there's areas we can improve, of course there is. We're not top of the table on 100 points already. There's areas of improvement. But
that's the exciting thing, though, isn't
that's
it?
The exciting thing, exactly.
But that's the exciting thing, that this isn't this team at its best. There is so much more room for this to get better. And that's what we're seeing. We're constantly getting better.
No, that's it. If you look at Jack Clark, right? Jack Clark just turned 22 in November. He's already playing for Sunlun. He's already doubled the number of games he's played in his career, right? In less than a year. He's already doubled the number of games. He's quadrupled the number of goals he's scored in his career. So that's just one example of a player who, you might think he's a relatively established name, but he's a kid, and he's got he's 20 games under his belt before he came to Sunderland, or 30 games, and there's just so much potential. You go Mishu, he'd never, Tony Mowbray had said he'd never played 3 games in a week before last week, right?
Yeah,
coming brand new in the Championship. You've got Ahmad, who's barely played a great deal of first team football before this season with us. You got Bennett, who's he's got so much potential, but he's barely kicked the ball really in professional football. You've got Ekwar coming on last night as third professional game, and as you say, that to me, I love watching us play at the minute. I think we're so enjoyable to watch. But you got 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds who are at the very start of their career, and on the day they're ripping it up in the Championship.
Yeah.
How good could they get?
John Ridley on Twitter has asked us who wins Young Player of the Year. It's crazy, isn't it? For the first time ever, that's dear me, how many options have we got there? I think, you've just said it there, about the players we've got coming through and the ones who were already really established as first teamers here, but they're only at the start of their journey. That's the exciting thing for me, is that, some of these lads have got another 3 or 4 years of massive improvement, really, before they then become sort of, at the peak of their powers, maybe even more than that with some lads. And the fact that we're willing to give them the opportunity to play at this level means that we are such an attractive proposition down the line as well for other players. But right now, just to watch us, you said it there, I think I've said it before, it's the best football I've ever seen Sunlun play, ever.
On a consistent basis, absolutely.
Oh, I mean, I know we everyone thinks back to the team under Reedy and stuff, but it's a different time, and we didn't play like this. It just wasn't the style of the era, At the time, it was 4-4-2, big lad and little lad, and the football was excellent and exciting, and we scored loads of goals, and we were brilliant. And we achieved a hell of a lot more than this team has to this point with that team. So it's not to do down that team. I just think, as a spectacle, we are. I mean, anybody would want to pay money to watch Sunderland, and it's nice seeing so many neutrals now who go along to the games. I mean, I saw a kid on YouTube, and I can't remember his name, so sorry, whoever you are, but he did tag us on Twitter, and he wasn't a Sunderland fan. He was just a journalist attending the game, and I mean, some of the stuff he had to say about us was just, absolutely blown away by us, by the fans, by everything. And that's what it is at the minute. Positivity is so infectious, isn't it? And it snowballs. At the minute, it's impossible not to be positive about Sunderland. And when you look around the league, really, there isn't many other teams with that sort of momentum. That's why I'm so excited about this team, is because, it's going to take something a bit mad for us to be stopped. And, yes, it's a worry that we don't have Ross Stewart, we don't have Corey Evans and players like that, but we have enough quality to get by and get on with it. I mean, look at Luke O'Nien, probably man of the match last night. Nobody's expecting him to run games from central midfield in the Championship, but in the right situation, I think I said this when I was talking to Chris and Phil last week, in the right situation, he is a really effective player in that position, because sometimes you just need somebody who's going to win you the ball, press, harry them, and distribute it quickly, and importantly, distribute it forward. We don't want a crab in midfield who passes it sideways and backwards. He's trying to get it forward. And that's a big mantra of Tony Mowbray. And even when we were under pressure at times in the game and maybe we weren't passing the ball around as effectively as we have done, I still feel like it's drilled into them now as a team to, when you've got the ball, just get the ball to the attacking players who can do their thing. And it's such a simple but effective strategy, and it works because you said it before, you look at some of these players, they're playing at a standard where not many teams in the country could live with them.
I think like Luke O'Nien's performance last night was excellent, and there's this whole narrative, isn't there, that Luke O'Nien can't play in midfield because he had a bad 45 minutes against Charlton 4 years ago, and when he was a kid who just come out of League Two, playing for Wickham, by the way, who we know all about Wickham. And look, we've all seen Luke O'Nien play all over the shop, and it bewilders me some of the negativity he attracts, but he's probably played 20 games in midfield for us, if that, over the course of 4.5, almost 5 seasons. Yeah, with worse players under worse managers as well. That's the other thing you've got to remember. Last night he was absolutely superb, and without Corey Evans in the team, we do miss that a little bit more sort of defensive strength, I guess. Dan Neil and Misha have done really, really well in the centre midfield, but they don't have that physicality that O'Nien brings. And he is a leader. He'll get in people's faces, talk to people through the game. And what I thought was really impressive last night was when he was dropping into almost the centre of defence, and Ballard and Bath were splitting a bit to enable us to push Hume and Elise up the field. And that sort of variation caused QPR a bit of problem. We were able to move them around because he was doing that, and we had that flexibility to go up the wing, because we always had Barr and Roberts kind of playing notionally as wingers, but Barr certainly doesn't hug the touchline. He comes inside, Roberts comes inside, so it creates the room for Hume and Elise to get down the flanks. But one thing that's really two things that have really impressed me about O'Nien this season, and again, this narrative that I can't play in midfield overlooks the fact that players improve, and we've got evidence in front of our eyes all over the pitch that players are improving this season with games and all that sort of stuff. But against QPR, and when he came on against Fulham at home in the FA Cup, and when he came on Saturday against Reading, his passing's been superb. He's been pinging long range passes around the pitch, and that's a part of O'Nien's game that hasn't always been the best. Is passing. I always think he's a better reactive player than proactive player, but his passing over the last 3 games he's had has been absolutely spot on. And Tony Mowbray will only take that midfield place off him. He'll have a fight on to take it off him for Saturday, because he had such a good game that he's made a difficult decision for Tony Mowbray, and that's the sort of decisions that Mowbray wants, isn't it? Yeah, I think I said to Chris the other day, we will see O'Nien back in the team at some point soon, because people are looking at it and going, well, where's he going to fit in? And I didn't expect him to come back in as quickly as this, maybe, but that's what I love about him. He's so determined to prove himself constantly, and that comes from a place probably, I think he was either 16 or 18 when he was released by Watford, and then had to drop into non-league. Like that's probably gave him a good grounding, and he's always fighting to prove himself, and you need players like that. And Luke O'Nien has always been doubted. It doesn't matter. Certainly, I think there's a portion of the fans who are never going to have him as a player. As a person, yes. As a player, they won't.
And that's not always a bad thing, because he's always got something to prove to these people. And there we go again. I mean, I don't take much mind of things that get said on social media, but before the game, there were people who couldn't believe he was playing centre mid. And it was nice that he was able to rub that in the faces of those people with that performance. I mean, he's just a brilliant, brilliant example to the rest of the team. You need Luke O'Nien. And it wasn't just his performance, mind. Some of the stuff off the pitch was great too. You know, even if you look at their penalty, I think he lay on the ground for about 2 or 3 minutes just to slow things down. Yeah. And they missed the penalty. And I'm not saying it was down to that, but it does make it makes a difference when you're the man holding the ball ready to take the penalty and you can't, because you know you've got that time to wait and things are playing through your mind. Where do I put it? What do I do with the ball? You know, where should I place it on the grass? He's got a lot more to think about when he's got time on his hands, and O'Nien contribute towards that. I love him. I'm full of love today. Sorry, but Luke O'Nien, he's great.
Day after Valentine's Day. There you go.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, he's. I could just sit and talk about each one. I'm so happy at the minute. I could go through the full team like this and just talk about how much I love each one of them. But O'Nien in particular, like, you know, what a guy.
But like O'Nien I think he's a brilliant example of somebody who's worked so hard to improve himself as a football player, and he is such a good example for like the young'uns coming through. And you know, in a young side like we have, he's one of the more experienced players, isn't he? Like he's probably the second or third oldest player in the team.
Yeah, other than Danny Bart. Yeah, yesterday I was saying, yeah,
you know, the second oldest player in the squad. So for the young'uns to see him out in the training field, for practicing his weaknesses, training hard to develop those weaknesses. And it's also that mental side. Like there was an article on, I think it was on Sky Sports website, wasn't it? It was the last week or the week before.
Yeah.
Where O'Nien was talking about the mental side of football and the mental side of life, really, and how much of it is, you know, in people's heads, and how much football is actually played in your head as opposed to the talent that you've got in your feet. And for him to be around the squad and, you know, influencing the squad, you know, we saw him with Chris Rigg after the Shrewsbury game when Rigg made his debut. Like Rigg was really looking up to him and loving him because O'Nien had made him feel special and all that, so it looked after him. And you can see it on all the videos that the club put out, on those all access videos. O'Nien's in it, he's in the thick of it, and I think, you know, yes, he's got a really important role to play in the team, and he has, because he can play in any position apart from, well, he probably could play goalkeeper, but he could play in any position on the field and you'd happily have him there. But you can't underestimate how important he is around the squad and around the team. And like, long may it continue. Yes, long may it continue. We should probably talk about the game in a little bit more detail instead of just loving everything. The game then. The first goal, we might as well go straight to that. Yeah, the love cast. The first goal then, which came from Luke O'Nien, of course. Scrappy, probably a little bit of good fortune, but the build up to the corner, which we eventually scored from, was lush. Like, Abdullah Bar played this little flick between him, I think it was him and Patrick Roberts, and we won a corner from it. Fantastic. We then take the corner, and the hero of this fixture, the last time we played, which was their goalkeeper, who scored obviously the header at the Stadium Light earlier in the season, was the villain on this occasion. He fluffed it, dropped the ball. I think it was Elise who got it away from him, and then Luke O'Nien bundles it in. He claims a foul. There's no foul at all. Terrible handling. And we get the goal. Was it deserved? I think it was one of those opening sort of stages where, you know, for the first 20 minutes, I thought they probably had a little bit better of the game. I think from a territorial point of view, and it's understandable. And I think, you know, you've got a team like that who haven't won for a while. They're at home, a nighttime game. The Mandrill have got them revved up. Will Ferrell's in the crowd for some unknown reason. And what was that about, by the way? Let's not skip past that. Random. And he was doing videos on their social media channel about us and stuff. It was a bit of light-hearted banter, I guess. But at least he got to see Sunlun win. But in any game, at any level, you're going to have to, you know, face a little bit of pressure from the opposition. You're going to have to assert yourself. You're going to have to win the right to play football. And, you know, that doesn't come easily. That doesn't come as a sort of given right in any game, regardless of where the opposition are in the table or what form they're in. So we were always going to face that pressure, and the way that we handled it was really, really good. We didn't give them any chances of any note. We restricted them. We defended well. We got tackles in. I think we were a little bit sloppy in possession for spells in that opening sort of 20, 30 minutes. But, QPR had obviously come out with that intent to try to get an early goal. It didn't happen. And they've exerted a lot of energy into that opening spell. And all of a sudden the game sort of just settles down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we start, having a little bit more room to play football, having a little bit more room to break into. And really that move that led to the corner, that was one of the first spells that we actually strung 5, 6, 7 passes together in the attacking third, where we could actually try to hurt them. I think was Gelhardt's chance before that.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So I think we'd had that warning sign for them where Gelhard had broken through from Trey Hume's ball over the top and got in behind Jimmy Dunn, I think it was, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And he probably should have scored, I think, to be honest. He took it he kind of took it with his wrong foot to try to make it certain in the end.
It's hard when you're trying to make an impression, though, isn't it, on a new team and stuff. Like he's not going to be fluid yet, so you can sort of excuse that.
But also, he's another, like, to me, he's like when Jack Clark and Patrick Roberts came in last season. They haven't played a great deal of football, haven't had a run of games. He's been chucked in unexpectedly to fill a huge void left by Ross Stewart. So there's an enormous amount of pressure and expectation on him. And, I thought he, as you say, we said earlier, he grew into the game. In second half, he played really, really well. And he'll get, I reckon he'll get a goal on Saturday. It's coming for him. But it was one of those goals where, on the balance of play, you can't say that we deserved to be ahead. We were coming into the game. But when you get the chance, we take it. And it gives us a nice little platform to then play, because it changes the dynamic of the game completely, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then from there, they got a penalty, which was, it was a penalty. Adjili say, I don't know what he's really doing there. Hands above his head, ball hits it, nailed on penalty. Like I said before, Luke O'Nien's contribution was to lie down and pretend he was injured for a long time, which I think definitely helped. And their best player, who is Elias Chair, steps up to take it, and he hits it really well. But the save from Patterson is outrageous. Like, I don't know. I love that when a goalkeeper goes but still manages to save it, even though the ball's going a different direction. Obviously, it hits his foot perfect. It's almost like a scissor kick, isn't it? Sort of volleys it towards the touchline. And yeah, I mean, it was great to see him showing a little bit of emotion too, because he's not the most expressive goalkeeper, which I actually thought might be a problem for a long time. I've spoke about Patterson and talked about how, with him, he could do with being a bit more of a presence and a character and stuff. And I don't know if you saw the interview that David Priest did with Not the Top 20 this week. Obviously, David Priest worked a lot with Patterson last season in particular. And, he was talking about how, nothing phases him. And I've heard Mowbray say this as well. Like, nothing phases Patterson because nothing phases him. He's not like a Jordan Pickford who'll go mental and run up the play like he did in the Anfield, the Merseyside derby at the weekend, running up the players when they're getting beaten stuff, and you think, what are you doing? But sometimes that can be to Pickford's detriment. Patterson just, gets on with it. He doesn't really, make any noise whatsoever. And it was nice to see him showing a little bit of emotion and expressing himself, because, like I say, it's part of him we don't often see. But it was a great save, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a cracking save. It's very instinctive, wasn't he? Kind of gone to his left and instinctively chucked his boot up and got a really good connection to the ball that, as you say, was well struck. But it's interesting with about the personality, I guess, of goalkeepers, isn't it? Because you want somebody in goal who's level-headed and relatively consistent, and if you scroll through, obviously when we're doing the articles on the website, you can scroll through all of the images that come up, and there's always images of Patterson celebrating our goals. He's kind of shows emotion a lot in that respect, but not normally when he's directly involved. So yeah, it was nice to see that. But if you look back in over the last a couple of decades, I guess, of goalkeepers, people like David Seaman, they weren't very outwardly emotional goalkeepers. They weren't ranting and raving. Schmeichel was a ranter and raver. So you've got all sorts of different.
Yeah.
Like Peter Shilton wasn't a ranter and raver; he was a calm presence in goal. Craig Gordon wasn't a ranter and raver for us, was he? So you've got different types of keepers, and it's hey, look, as long as they keep the ball out of the net and make some good saves, it doesn't really matter, does it? But Patterson last night, I thought that was his best game for us. I thought the penalty save obviously gets highlights, right? But he came out and claimed the ball in the box. He came and dealt with crosses. He was punching things. He's got a tough opponent in Chris Martin from a physical point of view when the ball comes in the box. He was just coming and claiming the ball. And again, like I think over the course of the season, you see his development and it's going up. It's going up from left to right. There might be a few little dips in there, but on a level, it's gone up so much. And if you think this time last year, he'd just been recalled from Notts County. He played a couple of games, lost his place against Hoffman, got back into the team, and where he is now, his improvement, continual steady improvement, has been superb.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was after the Swansea game. I was critical of him, and I think it was right to be because I thought he was poor in that game. Mostly about just his command of the area and being a presence. Like
and that's all to improve.
Yeah,
but like we saw it last night, he can do it. He's got all of the ability to do it. And like that's the thing with any young player, isn't it? It's getting that consistency. So to me, Patterson's somebody you kind of look at. Okay, is he a good shot stopper? Superb. Is he good at claiming crosses? He can be. He doesn't do it consistently enough, but he can be. Does he come out and command his box? He can do. His kicking's an area that you'd kind of like to see improvement on now because his distribution out from the back isn't as good as it could be. But as I say, for a young player, his improvement is brilliant. And again, over the next few months and couple of seasons, he could turn into an absolute top-class keeper.
Yeah, and I wonder how much, there's been murmurs that he's going to make the England under-21 squad this week. And I wonder how much that's factored into it too, because it's been in the newspapers and stuff, so he's probably not used to that sort of attention, but it's going to, he's going to feel 10 foot tall, isn't he, for getting that sort of attention as well.
After the Fulham game at Craven Cottage, he got a lot of attention on Match of the Day, got plaudits for that performance. And then he had a couple of iffy games. I think Millwall, he had that one where he spilt George Honeyman and got disallowed, but it could easily have given away a goal there. And against Fulham at home, he didn't have the best games, but clean sheet against Reading, not a great deal to do, but did everything well. Clean sheet last night against QPR. Again, like QPR only had 2 shots on goal and one of them was a penalty. So he didn't have a lot to do from a shot saving point of view. But in terms of his all-round game, I thought he was superb.
Oh yes, very, very good. So we were great, I thought, in the second half. I think they did have a period where they had a spell of possession. I think maybe their manager in his post-match analysis over-egged it a bit. He made them sound like they were totally on top. Yeah. But yeah, we were the better side. I felt second half. We got the second goal, and I think the other thing before I talk about the second goal, the other thing that was good about that second half was that when we were ahead, we then went to the bench and we had Ahmad, we had Dan Neil. We had quality players on the bench for once, which a couple of weeks ago we had nobody. We had a load of kids on the bench. This bench was a lot more options, better players, better quality player to bring on. And I think it was the contributions of Dennis Sirkin, wasn't it, who came on for Adji Elise in setting up the second goal. Yeah. Which led to that one. And again, another great option to bring off the bench, somebody who's a committed player, throws himself into it, gets us away. Jack Clark gets to the edge of the box, and poor defending, if I'm honest. I watched the goals back this morning, and the defender actually shows him onto his right foot, which I found totally bizarre. But Clark shown onto his right foot, good little bit of footwork when he looks like he's about to stumble. I think he sort of rolls his foot over the top of the ball, and the finish is like a pass. Actually, it's passed into the bottom corner, but he's already done the hard work, and it was a great move, great goal.
Really good goal, and it was interesting how that second half played out, wasn't it? Because obviously if they'd scored that penalty after 10 minutes of the second half, it's a completely different game. But I think that completely knocked the wind out of their sails. Team low in confidence, had a golden opportunity to get back in the game and passed it up.
Fans on their back as well, by the way, which was nice. We don't often get to play under them circumstances, but their fans weren't happy.
Right. But I think after that penalty miss, they lost their heads. Like they were flying in tackles, and like some of those tackles that were flying in were red cards. Like that one on Sirkin that you mentioned there, horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Pritchard got wiped out when he was on the break. Could easily, like, if that's a couple of centimetres higher, that's a red card.
Dizelle, who was playing centre mid for them, he should have been off.
Had about 5 yellow cards in the game. Like they just lost it in the last 30 minutes. They were disgraceful. Like it was like watching a game from the 70s or something. It was like I expected Billy Bremner and Kevin Keegan to start twatting each other. Like, it was just nuts. But like it's funny. Like they say, Sirkin got wiped out, but he played that lovely ball through to Clark. And to be fair to the referee, he played a few good advantages for us when they did foul us because we were on the break and going towards goal. But Sirkin's been something of a super sub, hasn't he? Came on against Millwall, scores the equaliser, comes on last night, sets up the second goal. Clark, for a player who hasn't necessarily been in the best of form, like he's been trying a lot of things, but some haven't been coming off. He took that goal beautifully. And like that'll stand him and us as a consequence in really good stead because he is such a good player and he just needs to kind of knit it all together over the next few weeks because such a good finish and he causes teams problems. And I think by that point, it was a really well-deserved second goal.
Yeah, on Clark, we've been sent a question by @writingprivacy on Twitter who asks, have we found Jack Clark's best position as a second striker? For me, his finishing is his best asset. I mean, I wouldn't say he played as a second striker, but like we outlined at the start, Mowbray said the plan was to play with wide forwards. Yeah, but it is interesting, isn't it? Because does that get the best out of Gelhardt too? Is that his best position?
No, I don't think it is. I think he's far better on the touchline and sort of driving in because he can drive down the touchline, drive in towards goal. He can carry the ball with pace, and I think when he's that far forward, he doesn't often have that 20 yards to run into where he can cause teams problems. But his finishing is a really good attribute that he has. I think that's his 8th goal of the season for us. Or his second one last night was, and I think if you've got him with that goal scoring out wide, you've got such a goal. You naturally have such a goal threat across the whole of the attacking 4 or 5 players. So I think that worked last night, and I think it was very deliberate for last night. I'm not sure whether we'll see that as a regular thing, but look, it worked. You can't knock it, can you? It worked last night, and as you say as well, I think Gelhardt he's not a natural striker. He's not a natural one person up front striker, play on the last man. He likes to come deep, plays almost a number sort of 10 role. He's almost a bit like Ahmad in terms of the positions he takes up and where he drops in to get the ball. He kind of occupies the same type of positions as Ahmad does. So look, it might be something that we kind of see a little bit more, I guess, because it could be, I think Tony Mowbray is quite pragmatic in terms of, what's the best formation to get the best out of these players. We've seen all season, haven't we? He's not a 4-3-2-1 or 4-4-2 or 5-3-2 man. He'll play the best formation to get the best out of those players for that particular game. So if he's seen something with Clark and Gelhardt, because we have got a lot of players who can play in midfield and out wide, it could be something that we see more often, but I don't think it's a permanent thing.
No, yeah, I think you just got bang on there. Mowbray will pick the team based around who are playing, how we can best exploit their weaknesses, which sounds rudimentary, really. You would think all managers would do that, but they don't. Some managers are so set in their ways they'll only play one system and they'll only play one way.
That's right, exactly.
And he clearly realised that the best way to get at them was to get down the sides of those 2 centre halves, and it was in the end.
But the other thing with that is you've got to have the players who can mentally and tactically adapt to it. And some managers often play the same formation because they actually don't have confidence that their players will adapt to it. And I think Mowbray, was it Mowbray had said, or Nick Barnes had said when I was listening to it, that it did take us. Actually, no, it was a Reading game, wasn't it? It was Saturday, where it said it took us maybe 20 minutes to really click on to what Mowbray had asked them to do. But once it clicked, we were fine. I think it was maybe similar last night where the opening stages, the players were a little bit unsure of where they should be, the positions they should be taking up, because like naturally they'll do certain things subconsciously. And that sort of change in formation requires a bit more thought. But the players, and I guess that's probably one of those things with having such a young squad, is that they're thirsty for football knowledge, they're thirsty to develop themselves as players. They haven't got a predefined opinion on what they are. they just want to be the best footballer they can, so they'll try different things. They'll be more inclined to try different positions or slight variations of positions because it'll stand them really in good stead for the future. So it's probably that sort of perfect storm of things happening in a positive way for us.
Yeah, and then the third goal, which killed things off again from Jack Clark in injury time. I think by that point QPR had given up, but we still had a job to do, and it was a good little move. We played some nice stuff down the right-hand side. I think it was Ekwa, who actually I thought was really good when he came on. He had a really, really good game, and that's as well as he's played so far. Passed it to Dan Neil. It was a nice little 1-2, got down the right-hand side. The movement from Clark is outstanding. The defenders have completely switched off, too busy ball watching. He commits forward, then drops off 5 or 10 yards just to give himself the space. Neil finds him. It's a great goal again. Just another lovely, lovely goal. And that killed the game off as a tie. And sent the QPR fans home in a fury, and now us home very, very happy. And another fantastic bit of football from Sunderland.
It's quite funny, isn't it? Because Tony Mowbray said after the game that the scoreline might have flattered us a little bit. But I think in the last 20 minutes, we've scored those 2 goals to make it 3-0. Gelhardt's hit the bar. Ahmad should have scored when he went through. We had another 1 or 2 good opportunities to hit the target. So you could have been looking at the 5 or 6-0 away win there quite easily. Yeah,
we're going to dust somebody like that eventually. Like it feels like it's been coming for a while. I know 3-0 away from home is a fantastic scoreline, but I feel like we've got a 4 or 5-0 in us at some point soon. Just once everything clicks and we play the right opponent who just don't know what to do with us, we're going to give someone a proper hiding.
And it's about clicking for us for 90 minutes as opposed to maybe 60 minutes I did yesterday. I think the last half hours of both halves, we were on top and dominant. But if you do that for 90 minutes, which, as I said earlier, it's very hard to do. But like we're talking like this, scoring 3 away from home, talking about dusting somebody at some point 5 or 6-0, and Ross Stewart's on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just testament to the attacking threat that we have. And we had that situation, didn't we, when Stewart got injured just before deadline day, and Chris Martin was available on the free transfer. And you see him last night and you just go, thank God we didn't sign him. Would you rather be watching him play than Roberts or Ahmad or Gelhardt or Jack? It's just like it's worlds apart.
Chris made this point, didn't he, when he did the pod with Phil the other day? When we watched Reading and they had Andy Carroll and Shane Long up front, and you're going, if that's the alternative, why would you want that? Because we would have to totally change the way we play just to fit them in, and it wouldn't work. And you're right. I would absolutely no way would I rather watch Chris Martin or Connor Wickham or whoever else was available on a free transfer the other day playing for Sunderland than these lads. And we have to just sort of get away from, I guess, from this mentality that there's only one way of playing football, and that's to have a striker on the pitch, an out-and-out centre forward.
Could you try again?
Oh, there's Siri getting involved in the conversation. Didn't understand what I said. I wouldn't rather say that. No, I want to see these young lads doing their best.
No, I do as well. I think having you wouldn't choose to go into a run of 17 or 18 games that we are doing with just one striker who isn't really a proper striker. Anyway, I think like having a proper striker like we have in Ross Stewart, it gives you, it stretches the game a bit more, gives you another option, and that's not to mention the clinical finishing that you get with a proper professional striker, I guess. But we've got enough goals in us to get through this spell in the season. And I think, people have been scarred by that spell earlier in the season that we had, Ross Stewart out injured, Ellis Sims out injured. And we had, 7 or 8 games where we might have won one game. But the thing that's overlooked in that spell was Ballard was out injured as well. And Lyndon Gooch was playing right back. And I just think from a defensive point of view, that defence that we've got there, Trey Hume, Dan Ballard, Danny Bath, and Elise or Sirkin could easily come into left back. That is as good a back four as you'll get in the Championship.
Yeah.
And that is as good as you'll get in the Championship. Patterson behind them. And I just think having that solid base that the midfield and forwards can rely on to go forward and create more chances, maybe commit another man, you can't underestimate how important that is to getting it right at the other end of the pitch.
Yeah.
And I think in that spell earlier in the season, we were a little bit more fragile at the back. I think we had Bath and 09 playing centre half, maybe Elise at left back and Gooch at right back. But like Dan Ballard is absolutely superb. And he
Premier League. He is Premier League, he's like he could go into any team in the division above, and he wouldn't look out of place.
So I think like you can't underestimate that factor when you look at what's going to happen over the next few games. We're not playing with a recognised target man striker. And yes, that does cause us problems, but we've actually got far more about us in the team than we had in that spell in September and October. You've got the likes of Mishu coming into the side now who hadn't kicked the ball in football, in Championship football.
And Ahmad.
Bar as well. Ahmad's got 25 games under his belt now compared to what he had then. So it's a completely different team they're coming into with more confidence, more attacking flair, more knowledge of how to play the system Tony Mowbray wants them to play, because all of those injuries happened in Mowbray's second game in charge.
Yeah,
so you've got all of these factors that come into it where you go, it's nothing like what happened in September, bar the headline that Stewart's out. Everything else that falls underneath it is a completely different scenario. So we've kind of got to go, you know what? These are the players we've got available. There's goals everywhere in that team. Let's crack on with it.
Yeah. As we sort of round off here, I feel like we haven't spoken enough about some of the performances, really, which it's tough. We're going to end up running out of time. We could talk for hours and hours about this. But yeah, I mean, we've quickly run through the team because it would be unfair not to, really. Patterson, outstanding, brilliant penalty save, better command of his box. Like I said, best game he's had for Sunlun. I thought Elise was absolutely fine, and I like how he's become this sort of outlet for us going forward as well.
Good, isn't it?
He's sort of left back come centre forward at times, who just wins us headers and knockdowns, and very different sort of role than he probably envisaged he'd ever play for Sunlun, but it's making the best of his abilities. The fact he's so athletic and big and quick. Bath and Ballard, you just mentioned them. Best centre-half pairing we've had for years. Like, brilliant. And nothing gets through them. They just head, kick everything away. Yeah. When we've got the ball on the floor, they look very comfortable and they distribute it quickly. A couple of times where I felt we could have got rid of it a little bit quicker last night, but that's being picky. Trey Hume, he was a shoe-in for man the match if it wasn't for Luke O'Nien. For me, just outstanding. He is, I keep saying best this, best that, but again, best right-back we've had in years. Just a proper right back who gets stuck in.
Brilliant sliding tackle, wasn't it, in the first half where he
got the ball away just before the shot.
Really cleanly in the box. Superb.
I mean, I can't say enough good about Trey Hume. I think one of the guys on Twitter, Sean, asked us for a bit of a monologue on Trey Hume in the manner that I did the other week about somebody else. But yes, sorry mate, not going to get it today. We're running out of time. But Trey Hume, outstanding again. He's made that position his own.
He's pulling off that tash as well, which takes him doing.
You can pull anything off when he plays like that, let's be honest. Luke O'Nien, man the match, just proving his doubters wrong with every game. We've already spoke a lot about him. I thought Pritchard actually had a very, very good game once he settled into the sort of central midfield position.
Quietly effective, wasn't he?
Yeah, picking the ball up deep and
over.
Just, some nice balls over the top and stuff. I thought he did really well once he got comfortable. Barr playing out on the left. I think Danny Collins said on the stream, he's not really sure what his best position is, but that doesn't take away from the fact he played well.
He's so good on the ball, isn't he? He sometimes struggles to get into it, but his touch and his close control is brilliant. And it's difficult to know where his actual best position is because he was sold as a centre midfield player, but he's not a defensive midfield player. He's going to be maybe more comfortable in the midfield 3 than a 2, but we'll see how he does. But he's, again, really good performance.
He's a ball carrier, isn't he? He just gets the ball, runs at people, moves it quickly. When he looks like he's about to lose possession, he seems to just be able to get this little touch and
long legs,
regain it. Yeah, long leg and wins us a lot of free kicks. So he again, another player who's still got lots of room. I mean, he's just coming into the team now. Out on the right hand side, we had Patrick Roberts, who has been brilliant for weeks now, and again, really influential, really, really effective in the final third of the pitch and creating things and just committing defenders and making them move out of position when they maybe don't want to and shrugging off lads twice his size.
Yeah.
Love him. Clark played all right, generally. I wouldn't say it was his best game for Sunlun, but what I will say about Jack Clark is that we saw, 2 goals, right? even when he doesn't play well as a whole, you need to leave him on the pitch because he's got goals in him.
Yes.
And he's a great. I actually agree with what one of the guys on Twitter said to us. Clark's best asset is his finishing. He's a really, really good finisher, and without Ross Stewart, we need players like that on the pitch. So regardless of how well he played generally, I think as a forward performance, got 2 goals, you can't complain. And
absolutely not. I think like his finishing is a really good attribute. I think the way he carries the ball at pace up the field is another of his strengths. And I think him with space to run into and not much time to think about it, he's great. He's frustrating when he gets the ball and he cuts back and he'll go back again.
Yeah.
And that is frustrating. But that comes with experience, knowing when to release it and when to hold on to it. But again, like in terms of raw attributes, he's got pace, he can finish, he can drive forward with the ball, he can cross the ball, he can put a good free kick in. Like he's got so much going for him.
Yeah. And then we had obviously Gelhardt, who I think first half it was a frustrating one for him because he was trying his best to just get a goal. I think second half though, someone had obviously had a word with him and just told him to concentrate on his job. I thought his closing down was brilliant. He
superb, wasn't he?
Pressed the hell out of them, forced them into so many errors. Really unlucky not to score. I think he probably say he should have scored that one in the first half. Then hits the bar in the second half, which was I actually thought he done, considering that's his wrong foot. Got a nice little flick on it. Really unlucky, and I agree with what you said before. He's going to score soon. He's not a million miles away, is he, from what we really expect from him at the minute. Gelhardt's going to. I think you made a good point before there, Martin. Patrick Robertson Clark this time last year, coming into the club a little bit cold. He's going to take time to warm up, but once he does, you can see he's got the talent. He's got it. Right. And then the lads off the bench, Ahmad just being himself and running at people and causing mayhem. And I think Mowbray said that he's got this cockiness about him, but it's like a measured cockiness. Like he doesn't do things for the sake of it. He does things because he can do it, and it's the right time to do it. It's quite hard to explain, but when you watch him, you know what he means by that. Dennis Sirkin, obviously really involved in one of the goals, came on and gave us something. I felt that they brought on KK at right back, and he was getting at us a little bit too easily down that right-hand side, our left-hand side, and Elise and Clark didn't really know what to do with him. Sirkin coming on showed us up a bit, and it was effective. He stopped the crosses into the box. Dan Neil obviously came on and
Dan
got
Neil
an
was
assist.
excellent when he came on, by the way.
Yeah, and I don't think it was the wrong call to drop him or Ahmad, by the way. I think, you've got to be able to manage their minutes. You don't want to burn them out. Sometimes, that we have to rotate the squad a bit, and when we're playing 3 games a week, you've just got to do it. And Pierre Ekwa, who I said before, brilliant when he came on, I thought, was involved in the final goal by some nice little play between him and Dan Neil. And I wish I could sit here for another hour talking about how much I love this team and how great they played. And
but I tell you what, as well, Gav, I think the other person to talk about briefly is Tony Mowbray, because last night he made changes to the side. He left Mishu back at home, didn't even travel with the squad, just give him a rest. Obviously brought in Pritchard into centre midfield, changed the formation to try to play against the 2 centre halves of QPR. And made some really effective substitutions as well. And I think he's really, really surprised me, Tony Mowbray, as a manager. And I think he's the perfect person to have in charge of the club right now, from looking after the players' point of view, from developing the younger players, but also just letting them go out and play attractive attacking football. And that's not down to the squad that we've got necessarily. It is Tony Mowbray. I remember when he was West Brom manager and we were going for promotion against West Brom, and they had this philosophy of just going out, attacking, playing nice football, come what may, this is the way we're going to play. And you can argue against it sometimes where you have to be a little bit more pragmatic, but I think that attitude for this group of players right now is absolutely spot on. I think if you compare the performances that we're seeing now to what we saw at the start of the season under Alex Neil, we started the season well under Alex Neil, but we had a more defensive, pragmatic approach to how we went into games. It was kind of not getting beat, trying to get teams on the break. And now Mowbray, over not much time really. We had the whole World Cup break as well, don't forget. He's developed this team into a team that's fearless to go out and play the football away at Fulham, away at QPR, away at Millwall. We'll just take it on. And I think, we can talk all day about the players, and we have done, but like Mowbray has done such a good job. And I was looking before, at the start of the season, we were, I'm still happy if we still, I'll be quite content this season. Obviously, that's looking like a given.
I think we're basically 2 points off that now, aren't we?
2 points off safety. So,
Yeah.
after Saturday, hopefully we'll be able to relax a little bit. But I'd kind of predicted 10th for this season. I thought, we've got a good side, we're improving. I thought 10th would be about where we'd finish. And look, we might still finish around that position. But I had a look earlier, and from the Burnley game, so after the Burnley game where we got beat at home, after being 2-0 up at half-time, we got beat 4-2. We've played 14 games, and we've got 25 points out of those 14 games. That's 7 wins, 4 draws, and 3 defeats. And over the course of the season, that's 82 points, which is guaranteed playoff spot. So we are in playoff form.
Yeah.
And over a long period, it's not over 3 or 4 games, it's over a quarter of a season, more than a quarter of a season. So we are banging playoff form over a third of a season. In 14 games, it's pretty much a third of a season. So, who knows where we get to? But it's going to be an exciting ride.
Yeah. Well, Mowbray is absolutely fearless. The players are absolutely fearless. We're just all out attack at the minute. I mean, I'm looking at the team written down in front of us at the minute, and you look, O'Nien's primarily attacking. I think when he plays midfield, he does get the ball forward. Pritchard the same, Barr the same, Roberts the same, Gelhardt, Clark. Even look at Elise playing practically like centre forward at times. Trey Hume, from an attacking perspective, put some great balls forward. Like it's just pure attack, isn't it? Like everything, and that's our approach to it. He's looking and went, we've got these players who are so good at attacking. Let's make the most of it. And I just love how fearless we are. It doesn't matter who we play, we'll try and beat them. We never go into a game and think, I think we should just try and play for a point today. Yeah. You mentioned it there. That was sort of the thinking when Alex Neil was manager, and it worked. It got us promoted. Managing games maybe more probably more cleverly, I would say. I'm not saying that. I actually think the way we are doing things at the minute, with just throwing caution to the wind, even sort of at the weekend against Reading, he made as many attacking subs as he could to try and get the win. And I love that. I absolutely love that. It makes games exciting to watch. It makes it just a great time to be a fan. And I love it. And I think you're right about Mowbray. He's the perfect manager for the moment. And he's proved a lot of people wrong, and maybe surprised a lot of people as well. Because I don't think people... I think you hear him talk and you just look at him, you think he's like an old guy with a bit of a drony voice and this, that and the other. But his philosophy on football is outstanding. He just loves working with young players, and you can see it all meshing now. And I said it earlier in the show, we're going places. You can see it all clicking. There's a lot of positive momentum at the minute. And that sort of leads us nicely into the game at the weekend, because we're playing a team who are in good form. It's going to be a good game. And if we don't win... game. Yeah, it's going to be a hard game. And if we don't win, we can't be too disheartened, because I think some of the results recently have been outstanding. So we kind of just have to hope we carry it on. I think you're going to see nothing less than a committed performance from these players. And we'll see how it goes from here. But I just hope we're sat here again after the weekend talking about another win. There's certainly no reason why we can't beat them. We are absolutely fearless.
No, look, there's no reason why we can't beat them. I think we're better suited at the minute to playing away from home than at home. So I think there's obviously an onus on us to break teams down at home that we sometimes find a little bit challenging. And look, we've got how many games left? 14 games left or something like that.
15, I think.
15 games left. Who knows what happens? But we might pick up 3 or 4 or 5 more wins this season. And even if we picked up 5 more wins this season, it would still be a bloody good season. Because we're heading in the right direction. There's so much potential there. And we are going to lose some games. We're going to draw some games. We're going to turn into a couple of disappointing performances. And that's completely normal and natural because of the level that the squad are at in terms of experience and consistency and fatigue and all that sort of stuff. But we're absolutely heading in the right direction. When you see the spells of performance that we had last night, you see the performance we turned in at Fulham, once, a bit more experience. And Tony Mowbray was talking about it after the match, I think, last night. He was talking about like the likes of Mishu, and you're saying, Jewison Bennett's being unlucky not to have a run out, but he'll come into the side relatively soon. Lahadji will come into the side soon, and he can't speak any English. And he was saying, by the summer, all of these lads who've been with us all year, they'll be able to speak English. They'll know what we're doing. They'll be well sort of drilled in our style of play, and watch them go then, because they'll be ready to hit the ground running. And like, to be fair to them, they've come into a side. You had the 4 lads sign on deadline day who've sort of adapted into a new country, a new area to live, a new language, a new style of football, a new football club, and you're getting performances like that from some of them.
Yeah.
It's frightening how good it could be if it all clicks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I say, I could sit here for another 3, 4, 5, 6 hours just talking about us. I wish I could. But yeah, we can't. So sorry, everyone, by the way, who sent us questions. We had tons on Twitter after the game last night, questions for this pod. I've managed to ask maybe 2 of them.
Well, let's do five quick fire questions. Come on
then, why not? Stephen Stubbs, where do we finish in the Prem next season? Top. Fifth. That's one we seem to like at the minute. Gavin Butler asks, why are some fans never happy? We'll not end on a negative, Gavin, but I think just people are naturally pessimistic, aren't they, Martin? There's always going to be people who don't like certain things about the team or certain players or whatever.
Oh, look, I think some people are naturally pessimistic, and that's their right to be so. I think people have been burned by Sunderland before, and we're always a little bit cautious about things. And I think people always react to a result.
Yeah,
and whether we're reacting really positively after last night's result, or people get really pissed off after a defeat. And that immediate reaction isn't always in proportion to the grand scheme of things, but people naturally get pissed off if you get beat, and we're on a high if we win. And I think as long as it's balanced over the course of a week, it's kind of all right.
Johnny Sherban asks, who do you love the least out of all the lads? Reasons required. Ooh, bit nasty. Ooh. I love them all equally, Johnny. I can't say I don't love any of them. Your caught us on the hop, yeah. I can't be nasty about any of these players. Sorry, mate. Michael Bowers asks, do the lads think part of the reason we're doing so well is because there's a lack of pressure attached to the season now?
It's interesting, right? Because I would have said yes before yesterday, but I listened to Jack Clark's interview after the game, and he said something along the lines of, we want to keep up the good performances, keep getting wins, so we can achieve what we set out to achieve at the start of the season, which to me was him saying we're aiming for the playoffs. So there might be a perception of a lack of pressure outside the squad, but I think they're probably putting some of their own pressure on themselves in terms of what they expect collectively to achieve, and I think they've got the sights set up there.
Yeah, and we'll end on this one then because it segues nicely. At Muncaster Gary asks, are we ready for promotion?
Oh, look. Is
yes,
any team
we
ever...
are. I'm putting in there. Yes, come on, bring it on.
Well, I would say, is any team ever ready for promotion? And no, probably not. So you take it when it comes. You obviously strengthen where you can to do it. But I would say that these players, as I said at the top of the programme, our attack will give any team in the country problems. Yeah. And we've got the best defence in the Championship, in my opinion. So are we ready for the Premier League? I wouldn't turn it down. No, I'd be quite fancying us.
Do you know what it is? For me, the Championship, we were told it's a difficult league, and it is, but it isn't as difficult as we were told. And I think in a lot of cases, there are a lot of poor teams in this division with bloated squads, average players, aging players on big money, a lot of clubs who lack ambition, maybe with owners who lack ambition. And outside of the clubs who've got the parachute money from the Premier League, it's much of a muchness. That's why, you've got clubs like Borough and West Brom who've had terrible seasons, changed their manager, and they've just floated up the division because it's actually not as difficult as some might think. And we've taken to it like a duck to water. And I think it's because we're very different. We play football differently to a lot of these teams. We've got a young side. And we don't fear anything. So, and Martin's right. you're never really ready for promotion. I don't think you can't pick and choose when you're going to get promoted. I know a lot of fans would say, well, we're not ready quite yet. We need a couple more years at this level. You don't get that choice. It just happens when it happens. And I think, with this team, there's no reason why we can't be at Wembley in May or whenever it is, because outside of that top two, look at the table. There's nothing between most of the league.
Do you know what it is as well with comparing the Championship to League One? I actually think away games in the Championship for us are probably easier in some respects than League One, because we were going to League One clubs, we were selling bloody mugs and scarves celebrating the fact that we were playing.
Yeah.
We were selling out the crowd. It was the biggest crowd they've had for 50 years. And I know it's a cliche thing, you sound like a bit of a twat, but it was cup finals every other week we were facing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get them coming up the Stadium Light, biggest game they're playing in their careers probably. And it's League One for us was really, really difficult because of the size of club that we are. And that's not, it's not being big-headed, it's a fact of our standing in football and the ground that we have and everything and the fans that we have.
Yeah.
It was the biggest day out. Pretty much every team that we faced, apart from the likes of Chef Wed and clubs like that. Mm-hmm. So you go in the Championships, it's a level playing field every week.
Yeah.
And, I think it's actually a different proposition for us, and we can go away and teams will, if we were going away in League One, teams were defensive against us, trying to kick the shit out of us. And we can go away to clubs in the Championship, they'll try to attack us, they leave space for us. And it's a proper football match. And I think with the players that we have now, obviously we've got a far better squad than we had last season, but the players that we've got now, we can take teams apart.
I would just say embrace the madness, This is Sunland. We never have a boring season. It's either spectacularly good or spectacularly bad. We all know this. This has been the theme of most of our lives. We're either bottom of the league or fighting up the top end. I said this back in September, October time to people. I said, get your Wembley hotels booked, because I'm telling you now, it's going to be mad this season. We'll be there. I'm telling you, and I'm sticking by that. And I know I'm like the happiest of clappers, and I'm probably still a little bit drunk in love of from the game, but I think we can do it, and I hope we do it. I want another trip to Wembley. I want to enjoy myself being a fan. That's why you support a football team, to be relentlessly positive about everything and love everything about it and enjoy the football and enjoy the wins and enjoy the goals. So are we ready for promotion, Gary? Yes, I think we are, because I'm always ready. And if we finish bottom of the Premier League next season, then that would surprise nobody either. But let's just live in the moment. And I think at the minute, the way that the momentum seems to be going, I can't see anything other than a strong finish to the season. And if that ends up with us in the playoffs, then brilliant. But if it doesn't, like Martin said before, we still had a cracking season. Anyways, Martin, we've went well over our allotted time here.
We have, but there's lots to talk about, and it's all good stuff. So,
but yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for joining us, as always.
And you have.
Cheers to the listeners. Sorry if we didn't answer your question. Sorry we didn't get through the 3-word reviews. We will try to be better in future, I promise. And make sure you catch us on rokerreport.sbnation.com before and after Saturday's game. We might even have a nice little preview pod for you. I don't know yet. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you all later. Cheers.
Where am I going? I don't know. Where am I heading? I ain't certain. All